Okay, so this is the key to topic 23, the worksheet on radicals, and this is the worksheet that's called Extra 16. And on this worksheet, if you look at it, you want to rationalize, although it said rational, I meant to say rationalize. You want to rationalize the denominator. And you have to show the work for all problems. And then it says to also make sure you simplify the radicals. Okay, so in number one, let's look at number one. We have 6x times the square root of 18. Now, there are multiple paths to take, but let's talk about the idea of rationalizing the denominator. Remember, the square root of 18 is an irrational number. You want to make the square root of 18 a rational number, so you don't want a, a radical in the denominator. You don't want a square root in the denominator. It's okay to have in the numerator, you just don't want the square root in the denominator. So since we're dealing with square roots, that's an easy thing to fix. All we have to do, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this over, all we have to do is multiply both numerator and the denominator by the square root of 18, which you see in the denominator. All right, so that's an easy fix. So, and we know that's going to be correct because the square root of 18 times the square root of 18 is 18, right? And notice 18 is a rational number. And so all I needed to do is multiply both numerator and denominator by the square root of 18. So remember, we got to keep this equivalent. So the reason we have to do both numerator and the denominator by that same number is to make sure this is a 1. So anything divided by itself is 1, and 1 times 6x squared of 8 divided by the square root of 18 is still the original problem. Okay? All right, now let's go ahead and write this as one radical or one fraction. So I get 6x squared of 18 divided by 18. Now there are multiple paths I can take from here. I can simplify the square root of 18 first, or I can reduce first. So let's go ahead and reduce first. So I get 6 into 6 is 1, 6 into 18 is 3. So I get x squared of 18 divided by 3. And then what I need to do now is simplify the square root of 18. So the square root of 18, I know I can simplify because the largest perfect square that goes in 18 is 9. So I get the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. So that's 3 square root of 2. So this becomes x times 3 square root of 2 divided by 3. And again, notice the 3's divide out. So your answer is just x square root of 2. That's your answer. All right. Now again, it does not matter if you write it as x squared root of 2 or square root of 2x. It's just that if you put the x behind, you better make sure that the x does not look like it's under the square root. Okay, because if it looks like it's under the square root, which it's not supposed to be, you're not going to get full credit. All right, so be careful how you write your answers when there's a variable involved and you write it behind the radical symbol. All right. Now, so that's one path. Now, the other path you could have done is this, just to show you. So you could have, if you wanted to, simplify the square root of 18 first. So we all know that the square root of 18 we know is this right here. So this becomes 6x divided by 3 square root of 2, right? And at this point, I know I can simplify the 6 into 3 if I wanted to. And so let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to get 3 into 3 is 1, 3 into 6 is 2. So this becomes 2x divided by the square root of 2. And then again, notice I have an irrational number. Square root of 2 is irrational. So remember our discussion. So whenever you're dealing with square roots, it's an easy thing to deal with. You're just going to multiply both numerator and the denominator by the square root of 2. And so I get 2x square root of 2. That's the numerator. And then the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2. And then these divide out. And so you get x square root of 2. So you get the same thing. Okay? Now, just to remind you, see there are different paths you can take. So if you look at this now, all right, suppose I simplify the square root of 18 and get 3 square root of 2. All right, and then let's suppose you did this. Let's suppose you said, well, I'm not going to simplify first. I'm just going to go ahead and rationalize. All right, so remember, one way to rationalize is to, and let me go ahead and do this. Remember, you're trying to get that square root of 2 out of there. You're trying to get that square root symbol out of there. So one way to do that is to multiply both numerator and the denominator by the square root of 2, even though you had that 3 there. Okay? And so we get 6x squared root of 2 divided by 3 times, and then the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2. So this becomes 6x square root of 2 divided by, and then 3 times 2 is 6, and then these 6's divide out. So you get x square root of 2. So again, the path you take does not matter as long as it's mathematically correct and you get the same answer. And you can even go even further. And I'm not going to do that with all problems because of our time constraint, but if I have this and I simplify the square root of 18 just like I did, you could have even multiplied both numerator and denominator by the denominator. So you could have said, well, can I just multiply the numerator and denominator by the denominator 3 square root of 2? Yeah, you could. You could definitely do that because this is still 1 right here, and 1 times this is still this. Okay, and you get 6 times 3 is 18, x square root of 2. 6 times 3 is 18. And then this is 3 times 3 is 9. You got to be careful. 3 times 3 is 9. And then the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2, though, right? So you got to be careful if you're going to do this. Equal 18x square root of 2 divided by, and then 9 times 2 is 18, and then the 18's divide out, so you get x square root of 2. So multiple paths you can take, okay? All right, so that was number 1. So I'm just go ahead and put the word R in all of these. Okay. Number 2. Number 2, we have this. Number 2. So we have the square root of 128 divided by the square root of y to the 5th. Now, what I would do, since I have a variable right here, what I would do is I would simplify this first. I would go ahead and simplify this first. And so we know that the square root of y to the 5th I can simplify because the exponent of 5 is greater than or equal to the index. And I know that I can rewrite this as the square root of y to the 4th times the square root of y. Remember, the largest whole number less than 5 is divisible by 2. And the square root of y to the 4th is y squared, so I get y squared square root of y. So that's the denominator. And I also know that I can simplify the square root of 128. So let's go and do that now. Square root of 128. So the square root of 128, you're looking for a perfect square that goes into 128 besides the number 1. So if you think, well, let's try 4. Okay, let's try 4. So 128 divided by 4 gives us 32. But notice that I can divide 4 into 32 as well. So 32 also has a perfect square. So that perfect square times the perfect square of 4 gives us 16. So it looks like 128, the largest perfect square that goes into 128 is 16. So let's check. And it is not, okay? Because notice that 4 also goes into 8. So then 16 times 4 is 64, and 64 is the largest, right? So this becomes the square root of 64 times the square root of 2. And the square root of 64 is 8, so you get 8 square root of 2. All right? Now, let's go back to that square root of 128. So some of you may say, well, and some of you may not have gone any further. You might have said, well, I'm going to write this as square root of 16 times the square root of 8, because 16 times 8 is, 16 times 8 is 128. The problem with that is this. So, and you can do it this way. But just watch. You get 4 square root of 8, but notice I can simplify the square root of 8 further. Because the largest perfect square that goes in 8 is 4, so you get 4 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. Right, so that's square root of 8 right here. And you get 4 times 2 square root of 2, so that's 8 square root of 2. All right, so it's always easiest to use the largest perfect square. But sometimes it sometimes is difficult to find out what the largest is. So you have to find one and then break it down. All right, so that's the numerator. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this as 8 square root of 2 divided by, and then that's y squared square root of y. All right. Now remember, the easiest way to do this is just to go ahead to get rid of that square root. So you want to get rid of that square root that's in the denominator. Cover the part that does not have a square root, and this is the only one. So you're going to multiply. I'm going to rewrite this over. The easiest way is to multiply both numerator and the denominator by that square root of y. That's the easiest way. And so now I get 8, and then remember multiplying radicals. If the indices are the same, you can multiply the radicands together. So it becomes 8 square root of 2y divided by y squared. And remember the square root of y times the square root of y is y. So that's y squared times y. right? And so that becomes 8 square root of 2y divided by y cubed. And there's your answer. Okay? Now, some students will approach it this way. I'm just going to show you one other path. And there are multiple paths you can take, but that's the easiest one. The easiest one, we have variables in the denominator under the radical, is to go ahead and simplify that first. And then it makes things so much easier for you. So let me show you the other way, just real quick. So remember you want, um, we talked about the fact that we can simplify the denominator because y is 5 rather is greater than or equal to 2. But 5 is not divisible by 2. But we know that if I add 1 to that 5, 6 is divisible by 2. So all I need to do is, let me go ahead and rewrite it this way. All I would need to do is to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the square root of y. And so notice what happens. First of all, let's go ahead and rewrite this as that. So I get 8 square root of 2 times the square root of y divided by the square root of y to the 5th times square root of y, right? This times this. But remember, when you multiply like bases, you add exponents. So 5 plus 1 is 6. So I get 8. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this to square root of 2y divided by, and then this is the square root of y to the 6th. And now we know that the square root of y to the 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I get 8 square root of 2y divided by y cubed. Okay, so either path, it works. It's mathematically correct. It's just what you feel more comfortable with. Okay, so that's equal right here. All right, so that's number 2. Okay, let's look at number 3. Number 3, we have, let's see, we have the square root of 18x cubed divided by y to the 5th. All right, so we have the square root of 18x cubed divided by y to the 5th. So I use y to the 5th again. So, you know, the quotient rule for radicals says I can rewrite this as the square root of 18x cubed divided by the square root of y to the 5th, right? And again, let's go ahead and simplify y to the 5th, the square root of y to the 5th. So we know from previously that the square root of y to the 5th I can write as the square root of y to the 4th times the square root of y. That's the easiest way to do that because that's what you're more familiar with. And so that becomes y squared, square root of y. And then the numerator, I have the square root of 18 times the square root of x cubed, right? And then for the square root of 18, that becomes the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. And the square root of x cubed is the square root of x squared times the square root of x. So this becomes 3 square root of 2. The square root of x squared is x, and then I have square root of x. So I'm going to put the 3 and the x together and in front, and then the square root of 2 times the square root of x is the square root of 2x. So that's your numerator. So all of this in the numerator is this. So this becomes 3x square root of 2x divided by, and then y squared square root of y. And then now all you do is simplify or rationalize that denominator. So get rid of that square root. And so I'm going to multiply both numerator and denominator by the square root of y. And so this becomes 3x. Now remember, the square root of 2xy times y is the square root of 2xy divided by y squared. And then the square root of y times square root of y is y. So I get 3x square root of 2xy divided by y cubed. And there's nothing you can simplify, so you're done. All right, so that's number 3. All right, let's look at number 4. Number 4, we have negative 5y divided by the square root of 10y. All right, so this one's easy because you have no number in front of the square root, and then we all know that to get rid of that square root, I'm going to go ahead and multiply both numerator and denominator by that square root of 10y. And I cannot simplify the square root of 10, I cannot simplify the square root of y. So I'm going to go straight to this. There's only one path to take, and that's this one. You can't do anything else. And so now I have negative 5y times the square root of 10y, so that's the numerator. And then we know that the square root of 10y times the square root of 10y is just 10y, right? because when you multiply radicals with the same index, you multiply the radicands. 10 times 10 is 100, right? And then y times y is y squared, and we know that the square root of 100 is 10, and the square root of y squared is y, right? And then you simplify. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this over. So there's only one path to take there, and let's go ahead and simplify now. So notice that I can reduce the 5 and the 10. So 5 and a negative 5 is a negative 1. 5 and a 10 is 2. The y's divide out, okay? And so you get your answer as negative square root of 10y divided by 2. And so that's your answer. Now don't make a mistake and reduce the 10 and the 2 because that's not a 10. 10 is not a factor. You don't see a 10 here. You see a square root of 10. Right? And the square root of 10 cannot be simplified with 2. All right, so that's number 4. All right, number 5, we have 8 divided by the square root of 2x cubed. Now, what I would do first is go ahead and simplify the square root of x cubed, because you know you can simplify that because 3 is greater than or equal to the index 2. So let's think about the square root of x cubed. We know I can simplify that by first writing it as the square root of x squared times the square root of x, based on previous lessons and practices. So the square root of x squared is x, so this becomes x squared of x. All right, so this right here, the numerator, I can write as 8 divided by the square root of 2, that's a 2 here, square root of 2, times this right here, x squared of x, okay? But I know I can multiply the square root of 2 and the square root of x and write it as one square root. So I get 8 divided by x square root of 2x. So that's where I'm at. So this right here is equivalent to this. And then all you do is just remember you want to get rid of that square root, so cover up that x. Just deal with the square root. Make things easy on yourself. So let me go ahead and rewrite this over. So now you're going to multiply both numerator and denominator by the square root of 2x. Okay? And so then this becomes 8 square root of 2x divided by, and then don't forget that's an x here, so you need to rewrite it. And then we know that the square root of 2x times the square root of 2x is equal to 2x, so that's times 2x. And now let's go ahead and do this. So let's go ahead and write this now as 8 square root of 2x, and we know that x times 2x is 2x squared, okay? And then we can reduce the 8 into 2. We can reduce the 8 into 2, just like this. And so I get 4 square root of 2x divided by x squared. And that's your answer. You cannot do anything else. Again, don't think you can reduce the x here and the x squared here, because that's not a factor of x. See, that x is in the square root. That's not the same thing. The square root of x is not the same thing as x. All right, so that's one path. Now I just want to show you. So what some of you are going to do is you're going to say, well, let's just do complicated. So I'm just going to do this. All right, so watch. So you're going to say, well, I'm just going to multiply just like we did in some of our problems. I'm just going to multiply both numerator and denominator by the denominator. Okay, that's fine. You can do that. No issue. Mathematically, that's correct. That is correct. So you're going to say, I'm going to multiply both numerator and denominator by the square root of 2x cubed, square root of 2x cubed. All right, no issue. So then this becomes 8 square root of 2x cubed divided by, and remember, the square root of 2x cubed, square root of 2x cubed times the square root of 2x cubed, you know is 2x cubed. But if you have to multiply it out, multiply it out. 2 times 2 is 4, so you get square root of 4. X cubed times x cubed is x to the 6. And now this becomes the square root of 4 times the square root of x to the 6, which we know is 2x cubed. Okay? So this becomes 2x cubed. This right here is 2x cubed. Now let's go ahead and simplify this right here, because you know that 3 is greater than or equal to 2, the index. So you can simplify that. So let's think about the square root of 2x cubed that's in the numerator. So I can simplify that. That becomes the square root of 2 times the square root of x cubed. So it becomes the square root of 2 times, and then simplify the square root of x cubed. You're going to rewrite the square root of x squared times the square root of x. So this is square root of 2 times x times square root of x. And now rewriting these as one square root, that becomes x square root of 2x. So that's your, that's this right here. So this becomes 8 times x square root of 2x divided by 2x cubed. Okay? And then let's reduce. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of running out of room here. Let me leave it like this for right now because I don't have enough room. So now what we're going to do is we're going to reduce. So the 2 divides into 2 one time. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Notice I have a factor of x here and 3 here, right? So I'm going to factor out this one right here with this one, leaves me with 2. So the answer becomes 4 square root of 2x divided by x squared. And notice you get the same answer here. Some of you are you're going to say, well, this looks much easier, and it probably is for some of you, but be careful around here because even though all of you can see that I can reduce the 8 into 2, it gets a little bit more of an issue for some of you with the x and x cubed because sometimes you don't see that part. All right, and so that's it. So that is the key to so that's the key to topic 23, well, worksheet 16.